Redditors assemble. r/AskReddit. Has someone ever challenged you to something that they didn't know who are an expert at? If so, how did it turn out for you? Them? Not me, but my brother and best friend. We were in Baltimore for a baseball weekend in 2009 and hanging out at a bar across from Camden Yards. They had a Silver Strike bowling video game. At our local bar back in Boston we had one as well. I'm decent at the game, but my brother and buddy were freaking amazing at this game. Bowling 300 games and whatnot. So two dudes are playing this game and drinking. We asked them if we can play when they're done. They asked if we want to play them. We said sure. My brother and buddy destroy these guys. Like it wasn't even close. These dudes said it was a fluke and they wanted a rematch, but this time for a round of beers. Again, Annihilation City. But they kept wanting to play, to eventually win a game. No lie, after 13 rounds of beers they finally gave up. They were great guys. We saw them the next day at the same bar and they walked up to us with beers in hand already and said rematch. To this day we still hang out with them whenever we go to Baltimore. And to this day, they have never won. Sounds like they were fun people who liked having someone to bullshit with. Oh yeah, great guys. Just kept laughing off the losses and buying beers. Sounds like me at pool. When lose or draw it's just the game that I want to play. And if you are better than me, I will simply enjoy the show. A neighbor on my block in Brooklyn challenged me to a pizza bake-off. I recently catered pizza for my daughter's school and word got around the neighborhood my pizza was pretty darn good. My first thought was, this guy is a Brooklyn native. My pizza will be shite compared to his. But there was something about him bragging that I couldn't resist the challenge. He talked up how pizza was in his blood. How his dad ran the pizza place around the corner years ago. I remained silent and let my skills answer for themselves. I got a buddy to let us use one of Baker's Pride ovens at his restaurant. We even had total strangers try our pizzas. Every last person chose my pizza over his. I never mentioned to him that I've worked in pizza places almost every day for the last 30 years. I never mentioned that when I'm not working at a pizza place I'm making pizzas at home at least once every 2 days. I never mentioned that at 9 years old I knew that I wanted to be a pizza man. Here I am 45 and getting ready to start my own pizza business. You go you crazy pizza man. This is some inspiring shit. When working as a teacher I beat a lot of students in Pokemon battles. Cause they didn't think of me being like 15 years ahead of them in fighting experience. Noobs. This is how I trounce my younger siblings at Smash Bros. Every game really. Freaking teenagers. Think they're hot shit. No way their old ass big bro is gonna beat them this time. I have been playing since you were a baby. Oh you got a new game. Cool. I played something a lot like it on a PlayStation with potato graphics. Get wrecked. My little nephew is such a shit. Bragging about how good he is at Smash Brothers. He challenged me to a 1v1, and I stopped him as Jigglypuff. He still brags. Just not to me anymore. Yeah, my friend's 8 years old son was trying to challenge to Smash all the time on the Switch. When I finally agreed my friend leaned over and said don't take it easy on him and I destroyed him with a young Link in the pink outfit. I don't even think he got a hit in once in 3 stock. I truly believe video game smackdowns are a good parenting tactic. My landlord tried blaming me for damage to the kitchen cabinets, but didn't know that I'm in construction and am very familiar with home building codes. They placed the cabinets too close to the stove and the glue that held the laminate had melted. My old landlord tried to screw me over on our security deposit when we moved out after 10 years. Put a ton of questionable stuff on the bill. Missed the window for providing receipts by a few days. And only had quotes for work that he never eventually got done. I'm not a lawyer, but my work life is all focused on telecom regulation and contracts. I also have a degree in history with a focus on legal history in some areas. So it was easy enough to get a basic handle on the state and local laws around this stuff as well as pull up case law. We had a couple back and forth interactions over email when I finally responded with each place where he fricked up giving him detailed references to the laws in question and how they'd been interpreted by local courts. Also pointed out that some of the things he was doing were pretty clearly being done in bad faith and that if I was able to demonstrate that in small claims court, where he can't bring a lawyer he'd potentially be liable for triple damages. He emailed me back the next day saying he just wanted to move on and not pursue the claims anymore. Stupid thing is this was all over a couple $1,000s. He ended up selling the place for about $1.3 million, which was a nice $900,000 increase from when he bought the place in the 90s. Asshole. He ended up selling the place for about $1.3 million, which was a nice $900,000 increase from when he bought the place in the 90s. I know so many developers, property owners, landlords, etc., that think they are some kind of genius for having been born at the right time. I lived in NYC, where a lot of these people made purchases when land was dirt cheap in the 80s and ballooned circa 10x value in only a couple decades. They don't realize it was all luck, circumstances well beyond their control. They seem to believe they personally did something to make this happen. They're the most entitled people I've ever dealt with. It's just the typical shit where they completely ignore price tags. Yeah, Gramps, I would buy a large property as an investment too if it costed a quarter and a polywhack. Knowledge is power. Someone at a bar bet me there were only 30 days in a particular month. $20 if I could prove them wrong right then. Pre-cell phone days. I was born on the 31st of that month. Showed them my driver's license. Expert at knowing things. Had to scroll a ways to get here. But this one is the best. You can't be more of an expert in this subject. Chess? I'm a chess master. I think when people hear that they're like, oh, he's really good at chess. But what it means is that I've played in international tournaments and beaten other masters, and some governing body has given me a title. Anyway, I get challenged a lot by friends who think they're pretty good. What they don't realize is that your average pretty good player is getting destroyed by your average tournament player. And your average tournament player is getting destroyed by a master. I had a friend whose scores didn't align with his skill, and he beat a master once and then never played competitively again. Said he'll never ever do better than that. He still plays with the old men at the mall almost every day. Imagine being so good at something that beating you is a career-ending milestone for some people. He was the last boss of life for these people. After that, it's only free roam. Reminds me of the time I was in summer camp and I picked up chess and started learning through books, YT vids, etc. I asked one of my much younger buddies, he was around 13, and got absolutely smacked. He purposely queen-aced and proceeded to checkmate me in 4 moves. Turns out he was 1,600 rated at tournaments and had a lichess rating of over 2,000. So yeah, you never know who you face in real life. Just graduated as a teacher and I've been working as a casual relief teacher. I play lacrosse, which is a small sport already and even smaller here in Australia. I tried out for the last World Cup team and made it to the final cut. I was team teaching with another teacher who worked at the school. Before the period he spoke to me and said, "Hey mate, we are doing lacrosse today. It's a bit of an odd sport and hard to teach, so just wait over there and then you can just help with supervision and discipline." Then walked off. Being a CRT from an agency, didn't really know how to speak to him. Speak up. I tried to speak to him and say that I played, but he didn't give me a second, so I just listened and did my thing. Few minutes into the start of the lesson I grabbed a stick and ball and just started to work my around the class, giving them pointers and hints. The way he was teaching was completely incorrect and I didn't want to say anything, so when the kids broke off into groups, I kind of just taught them correctly. He pulled me over at a drinks break and asked how I knew so much. Could perform the skills. I told him how I play lacrosse and my playing history. He asked why I didn't speak up and say anything, and I said I tried to tell him. Anyway, I ended up running the rest of the class and even ended up sitting down with him and going through the correct and easier way to teach the game and skills. He sounds like a good guy at least. Didn't let his ego get in the way. Agreed. I think anyone can be caught in the trap of streamlining their decision-making by leaning on assumptions. It's how we react to realizing it, or whether we even do, that really speaks about our character. I was a competitive swimmer for 14 years, including 4 years of NCAA, but I'm on the shorter side so people don't assume I was any good. Was at a friend's house on a lake one summer, and a macho guy challenged me to race to a boy in the middle of the lake, to prove something, I guess. The lake is deceptively large, about a half-mile across, so I warned him that if he isn't a strong swimmer it could be dangerous. He was running out of gas after about 2 minutes, so I offered to let him off the hook, but he insisted he would finish. I went to the boy and was swimming back when I found him floundering, so I lifeguard swam him back to the house. His ego took a deserved hit that day. Don't get cocky around water, even if you think you're a strong swimmer. Yup, hotel pools are where I shine. I mean, I've been swimming all my life. Whenever we go to the lake I spend 12 hours in the water nonstop. I still wouldn't swim far out and try to race a competitive swimmer. Fun fact, the longest sanctioned races at the FINA level are 25 kilometers. The best do it in just under 6 hours. Some of the longest, most popular swim races are 88 kilometers. Yes, 88 kilometers of continuous swimming. That's an amazing featuring. I can't even imagine the fitness and skill to do that. I once swam across a lake, a little more than 1.5 kilometers, when I was a fit, strong rural teenager, but admittedly not a competitive swimmer. My plan was to swim across starting at a dock near that was a 10-minute walk from my house, to a public beach on the other side. It was a fairly cool day, Canada, West Coast, and I figured the swim would keep me warm. I realized about a kilometer in, just past halfway the day, I bit off more than I could chew. I was already right done, and B, that I had to do the rest or I die. It was terrifying and exhausting at a level I'd never experienced before or since. It was too cold to just float and rest, just had to keep pushing. No idea how long it took me, or even how I got home after 88 kilometers. Jesus. I'm not a great swimmer, but there was a time when I would do laps for literally hours. I would go slowly to make sure that I had the energy to do the time I wanted to. This kid challenged me to race. I left him so far behind it was funny. Though he was about to humiliate me in front of his friends. Non-swimmers who know nothing about technique are an absolute hoot to race. Beaten my fair share of buddies who are quick swimmers and didn't know I raced competitively and went to state finals. I refuse to get in most pools now, and so they think I'm scared to swim. I just hate the memories. Hey dude, I am the exact same. I swam at a state and national level in my country, but was forced into it. Now I can't think of anything worse than swimming a couple of laps. I have 2 friends who swam at the national level and now refuse to ever swim again. What is it about the sport that so many people come to hate it? Is there no culture of fun? 4 a.m. practices. Went with a big group of college students to a bar. I was challenged by a cute little girl, and by that I mean she was maybe 95 pounds, 4 minutes, and 11 seconds, to a drink contest with a pint of beer. I'm 6 feet 1 inches, 200 pounds, so I just chuckled and agreed to it. It seems like I had just enough time to tilt my head back to start chugging when I hear her empty glass hit the table. Turns out she had the ability to just open her throat and pour the beer down. We dated for about 6 months after that. Seriously? Had a friend in the Navy, Scott, who wasn't nearly so cute as I'm imagining her, but he used to bet people $10 plus a refill that he could drink his pitcher before they could drink their bottle of beer. The thing was, he couldn't lose. He could literally pour a pitcher down his throat faster than beer could possibly glug out of a bottle. Scott never lost. Scott did, however, have a bit of a drinking problem. The most romantic male story ever. I once witnessed a dude like that do a pyramid competition. 3 shots, 2 bottles, 1 can. They were even on the shots, and then the dude just grabbed the first bottle by his teeth, flicked it straight up, and the liquid just freaking disappeared. The second one followed, and then a second later he smashed the empty can into the table in victory. His challenger hadn't even finished the first bottle. It was magic. Advertising your ability to open your throat is a good strategy. Yes. Still waiting to say the words I've been preparing for all my life. You want to play Dr. Mario with me? You absolute fool. I'm imagining you driving around in your car and having fake arguments with people leading up to the challenge. Oh, that? On the backseat? That's just a pair of original Game Boys with a linking cord attached so you can play games against each other. It's been back there for years. I totally forgot about it. Huh? Dr. Mario, I think. Okay, if you want. But, like, I haven't played this in years. Hey, it's still fully charged. What luck. Wasn't me, but there's a story about an old geotechnical engineer who used to work for the company I work for. Several senior staff had to attend a meeting with the client, and some government regulatory staff who were being awkward and not approving the design. This geotech guy is pretty much quiet the whole meeting. Throughout the discussion, the government guy keeps referencing this research document and shooting down anything anybody suggests. Near the end of the meeting, geotech asks government guy if he has the research paper with him. He responds yes and places it on the table. Geotech asks government guy who is the author of the paper, then slides over a business card. Turns out it's geotech's own paper that government guy has been referencing to defend his argument. Government guy went bright red and apparently approved the design the same day. A very proper, you don't know who I am, do you? One of the few times that's acceptable. When it is acceptable, it's always magical. Similarly, when fluoridating the drinking water in my city came up for a city vote, an anti-fluoride guy and a retired dentist had a radio debate. The anti-fluoride guy is paid to go to affected communities and convince them fluoride is harmful. During the radio debate, he keeps referencing this one study. It concluded that fluoride is harmful in any concentration. After the umpteenth time the guy had brought up this study, the dentist said, you know, I've read that study. He said that actually there were 12 researchers on that study, and only one found anything harmful about fluoride. Those other 11 researchers actually all agreed his research was biased and he should be taken off the study, which he was. The study concluded that fluoride in drinking water concentrations is not harmful, the dentist said to the anti-fluoride guy. And that one researcher? The one who got kicked out of the study? It was you. A local mall had a portable climbing wall with the make it to the top and win $100 side. The route was actually pretty challenging. As I walked by, the guy asked me if I'd like to try. Nobody has made it to the top. You think you can do it, buddy? At the time I was ranked top 12 climber in my age group and kind of laughed to myself. After taking my $100, I then proceeded to call the rest of my climbing team, and one by one they went to the mall and claimed their $100. After the fourth person, the guy got suspicious and took the sign down. We later told him we were all nationally ranked competition climbers and he got a good laugh. The company who owned the rentals was the one who lost the money. He just worked the booth and wasn't the one who lost the prize money. This happened to me too, at an amusement park. I think I was around 13, and my brother was around 10-12. The guy had a bunch of adults just try the wall, and failed, and my family had been watching. He tossed out, "No way the kids can do it." We both scrambled up that wall like monkeys and walked away with $200. Good times. What goes into being good at rock climbing? Is it good decisions, good body control, good muscles, some combination of all three? It's a mix of all three. Strong fingers, shoulders and core are pretty crucial, as well as movement and technique. So that's how my 250 pounds drunk self managed to monkey paw my way up a brick chimney. Piano hands. My wife and I were taking an evening cruise for adults in Portsmouth Bay. The ship drove around the shipyard, where my submarine and several others were stationed. My wife and I are having a quiet drink when a really loud know-it-all starts spouting misinformation about each submarine we are driving by, calling them all the wrong class, wrong names, etc. When he literally points to my submarine and says, "And that is a 637 class," my wife finally speaks up and says actually that is a 688. The guy gets all gruff and says, "Well, how would you know?" My wife smiles, hugs my arm and says sweetly, "That's my husband's submarine. It is the Minneapolis St. Paul, SNN 708. He turned beet red while his date laughed. I love the wife drop kicking him. I'm really good at archery. My friend and I rented him a bow at the local range and he wanted to bet me beers for every round. I told him repeatedly, "No, you will not win." He could probably get lucky if we did 1-arrow shoot-offs, but he wanted to do proper 3-arrow rounds. He insisted. I'd rank for free all night. How good is really good? Since you're comparing to someone using a rental bow. I used to compete. For reference, a standard 18 meters fit a target. I could shoot a perfect score, using the 10, not X's. That's impressive. Hoping to achieve that sometime soon. At circa 12M I'm at least 80% in the gold. So there's that. Also impressive. I once shot an arrow that hit the target and actually remained stuck. Some Japanese client that studied in France asked me for a translation job, but wanted to change all my sentences to prove she was better than me at my own mother tongue. She ended up writing something grammatically correct, but that sounded so horribly sexual that if you tried and Googled the terms you would only find peon and erotic novels. I had to tell my boss she was forcing me to write peon, because it was for a mascara brand that was supposed to be sold in France, so he could stop her, and after that she stopped trying to best me. I took French in high school. Dropped out of that class after 6 weeks with a 26 average. How is it that you've constructed an entire language where just minor tweaks can turn any sentence you say into something vulgar? Don't get me wrong, I think it's genius and impressive, lol. Living in Japan, and I am now realizing that, because every time I explain some word to my husband, I always have to add that word can also be used to say peanuts, but having sex, F you, turd. It is hilarious actually. Truly the romantic language of the world. XD. People call it the language of love. It's not. It's the language of sex. My nephew challenged me to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate once. Super Smash Nephews. Co-worker. I'm pretty good at running. I run every day. I could probably beat you in a marathon. They didn't know I used to be a pro runner. Ran under 14 minutes in the 5K, sub 29 in the 10K, and under 15 hours for 100 miles on trails. Won a national title even. So I agreed to run with them and jumped in the local marathon with no training. I took the prize purse and made myself a few $100 and took everyone out for beers with it. Was an interesting next Monday at work. LOL takes me 14 minutes to run a mile and you did a 5K in that time. 13 minutes of running and 1 minute of coming back from the brink of death for me. Same time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please smash the like button and leave a comment which story you liked the most. Subscribe and hit the bell notification for updates on our latest videos. And don't forget to check the links in the description box for more awesome content.